Good evening and welcome to our January 13th first meeting of 2025. Happy New Year to everyone. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the January 13th, 2025 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:31. All those in favor? Carried. Could you please rise for the singing of our national anthem? Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have the addition of an item under the key information report section. So that will be item 10A, and it is a verbal update on the Glen Walter water main break and boil water advisory. We also have one item which has been requested to be pulled from the consent agenda, that being item 11A, the letter from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding Municipal Accountability Act.
All right, thank you. So moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings, including closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, December 16th, 2024. All those in favor? Carried. Presentations and delegations. OPP update, Staff Sergeant Norman Lamontagne. If you could please come up.
Good evening, everyone. I see that you received the review of the year 2024 and 2023. This capture the overall year. I kind of like to extend it a little more in time, so you have a wider view of what's the total for the year. When it's a shorter term, it's hard to see the comparison to the previous months or years. So in that role, you see the entire year in terms of percentage. If you want, I can run you through each one of them as we move down, and feel free to ask questions if you want to. Let me start with the violent crime through South Glengarry over the past 2023 and 2024. As you can see, let me skip down from the murder offense causing death. There's 0 for South Glengarry. We move into the attempt murder. We have none for 2024. And 2 sexual assault, you see a slight increase from 13 to 15 for the overall year. If I go on the, no, it's all put together. This essentially, the level of sexual assault often is reported based by the victim feeling open to come forward. Often there is a stigma attached to this for a victim to come forward, and that's why there's a lot of effort throughout our community and openness for how to have victim to come forward if there's any situation where they were a victim of sexual assaults. Not an easy task for victims to come forward sometimes, especially when you got to go through the court process. As a result of that, sometimes it's quite challenging, and it's hard to try to minimize the re-victimization of victims. Regarding the assault, assault is quite broad here. Assault could simply be from two person committing an assault to domestic violence. We have the assault charges. It's a mix, a bit of both. In that report, I want to have it separated, but the system I was not able to get that divided. But if this is something you ever want to know at a more detail for domestic violence, I could probably work it out through my analyst to get that captured for IPV. Quickly to touch on the domestic, based on the provincial reviews, we newly established, not only here but throughout the whole province, but each detachment have an IPV, which is domestic abuse coordinator, assigned to review domestic violence incidents that occurred within our jurisdictions. And then it is just a safeguard to see was there something missed. I'll give you an example. If there is a situation where someone get apprehended under the Mental Health Act, officer get called to the call and end up in an apprehension of a person, and it may happen sometimes that it conceal a domestic behind that officer not, and hindsight doesn't pick on it because the apprehension of the safety of everybody involved is paramount. And then the safeguard is actually a mechanism in place now to ensure that when the call came in, was there something that we miss, and that might be related to domestic and that sort of thing. So it's that safeguard that we have in place that we can take prompt response, and we take a good response to if there's charges or further investigation that is needed. Okay. So this has been put in place for maybe a month now. This was in existence years ago, and for some reason those positions were eliminated by headquarters. And in light of reviews, again, that was all. Recommendation was that this would be put back in place, and it's really effective. And we already see some improvement in that regard for addressing domestic violence. Any questions regarding that part? No? Okay. We see here some noted like abduction and robbery charges, none in 2023 and one in 2024. I don't have those details in front of me. It's quite small in terms of volume of call. We'll talk about one for the entire year. I don't want to minimize the gravity of it. Okay. Crime against a person is also other type of offenses similar to assault causing bodily harm, assault causing death. These are type of, not only that, but it's an increment of it, okay? We've seen some changes. Here you see, again, it's likely connected to domestic violence. We see a change from 37 from 2023 to 42 for the year 2024, a slight increase of 13.5% for the year. If I move into the excuse me, property crime, arson, fire-related situation. We had 2 for the year 2024 and versus 1 for the previous year. That 100% increase, well, it's likely 1 to 2. So the B&E, we have a slight decrease for the break and enter. Officers, we certainly try to have a very group of officers that are proactive and responding to calls. What we need to focus on most of the time is where the officer safety is paramount for us. So often you'll see 1, 2, 3 cruisers going to a call, and for some it might be seen as excessive, but keep in mind there's most of the time 1 officer in that car. So not all the officer would likely go inside the residence or something, but likely the officer will stay nearby to assist if need be. The officer safety is #1 priority, and then this is one of the focus of our officers. Theft under, theft over. This is greatly related to the quantity of stolen vehicles, pickup truck that we've seen, and it was all over the news for the past few months and year, if I can say. There was a lot of effort. This is a section here for South Glengarry, so you see 23 and for the year 2024, and theft under, which is 32. What happened here often for the stolen vehicles, based on what I've seen, often stolen vehicles get stolen in the GTA area, and by the time, overnight, so by the time the victim notices the vehicle is gone, it's in the early morning, and it gets reported to the police up there, and when it gets on the system, so we talk about earlier in the morning, like a 7, 8 a.m., if you count traveling time from Toronto to here, that's why we often come across those stolen vehicles in our area, because we can pick on it right from the start. So that's what we actually see a lot in that area here. So our officers are very, very effective now. They develop some really good, they have a good ability now to identify different cues and how to intercept those vehicles. But in nowhere, the primary goal here is to do a safe interception with in mind public safety, because doing a traffic stop with a stolen vehicle may be extremely dangerous, and it's not a movie. When it's in the reality of things, it could be extremely, extremely dangerous for the public and the people involved in that stolen vehicles. They take very erratic action, evasive actions. I've seen right here on the 401 near Lancaster, driving across the highway into the oncoming lane, and you can only imagine what could happen there. So thankfully, the vehicle came back across, but I mean, all that to say that this is extremely dangerous. So officers take extreme precaution to prevent that from happening. So fraud, if I move into the fraud area, this is a trend right now. Awareness, I can't say it enough. Awareness is one of the biggest tool that we have for elders, people getting called, getting emails saying they owe money to the CRA or even the RCMP say we have a warrant for you. I myself got a few those calls working on my work cell phone, and saying that there was a warrant for my arrest for some money I owed, but all the scams are out there. So awareness is a big one for seniors, because they're the one that are the most fragile and easy to pick and become a victim of those frauds. So I'm hoping to find some other even additional tools to just increase awareness in that regard, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to minimize the victims of those scams. Um, Speaking about mischief, uh, mischief comes in various form. From domestic violence is also, I see some mischief charges coming from domestic violence incidents. A simple cell phone, an argument, and somebody break a cell phone in the heat of the argument. Well, if you look at the criminal code, this constitute for an officer responding to a call, this would constitute a mischief charges. So, or punching a hole in the wall, that would be a mischief. So that's why this is pretty broad. Or from a young person throwing a rock at a car or stuff like that, that would be a mischief as well. So there's a wide range of situations. I see the drug, moving into the drug and crime. The numbers are fairly low. It's not a capture of the entire SDNG. Here we have a simple possession of controlled substance. It could be from pills, or it could be from cocaine, but the numbers are quite low, which I think is a good thing. So. If I move down to on the second page to the clearance rate, so that's going to show you for what our officers are doing or able to do. Looking at the violent crimes, the clearance rate was 76% in 2023 and 77% in 2024, which is really good. I mean, where we conclude the file, later charges, so it's a good amount. That said, I see quite a reduce on the property crime side, 18.2 down to 8.7, often related to likely like stolen vehicles. Like I said, unless you take really extreme precaution, if you have a expensive vehicle that are targeted by thieves, it takes literally like 2 minutes for your vehicle being gone from your driveway. So if it doesn't get picked up, if it gets stolen around here, well, by the time the person realizes the vehicle is gone, it's likely already at the border. So it's quite challenging sometimes to find the vehicle. It gets in a container or hidden in a different locations where we can't find the thing. So we encourage member of the public to find also method to. It's all about time, right? If because they steal a vehicle extremely quick, if you can add time, sometime that this will be a deterrent for thieves to take your vehicle. Likely, if you have lots of lights where your vehicle is parked, like those little clubs on your steering wheel. If they really want the vehicle, they'll take your vehicle. But these are things that will just add time for somebody to take your vehicle. And the more you buy times, and if they try to minimize the amount of time there, they're going to skip and go to the next one, and so on. And then those are things to consider. And even some kill switch. I see some people get some kill switch installed in their vehicles, and there's all kind of. But if they really want a vehicle like I've seen in Toronto, I hope this will not happen here. They actually use violence to steal a vehicle, even from you driving the vehicle on the road, and get pulled over and they at gunpoint take your vehicle, that sort of thing. So those are things that has happened in Toronto area. And then, but it's not something that happened here, and let's hope it never happens there. As for the unfounded, the next, if we move down a little bit, those were the calls that our officers were called to, and the call was deemed unfounded, and I mean, often people will say I was assaulted, and I mean, unless the criminal code for officers to lay charges, they got to meet certain threshold in terms of criminal law, and we call element of the offense. So they have A, B, C, D element to prove, and if they don't meet those criteria, that they can't lay the charge. So sometimes people, let's say, individual will make a complaint. I want the person charged for an offense. Our officers still need to meet all those criteria. If something's missing, nothing's happening. So you can see some frustration from the public sometimes to complain, and I want a person charged for something, and the officer look into the totality of what they have, and something's missing. So the unfounded also maybe somebody claiming something that this never happened. And the last one at the bottom, it's about the criminal record check and vulnerable sector check. As you probably know, this is done by an outside agencies now, and then it gets screened in through a different process, and people apply online and they fill the form, and that outside agencies are doing the checks here at the office. At detachment, we do fingerprints for them, just to for the sake of process. And you see the numbers here for the year for South Glengarry. So most of the time, the CRCs are done for employment purposes, and the vulnerable sector, it's more like for like a parent wanted to go do volunteer work at school or stuff like that. This is that section that falls under the that check. So that's pretty much it for the report.
Are there any specific questions? Go ahead, Councilor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Staff Sergeant Lamontagne, for the presentation. Very, very concise. It's nice to see the numbers, although some concerns. I mean, when I first looked at this, assault being up 46% kind of jumped off the page. And I mean, I know we had talked in the past about the theft over that certain amount. I think it's 5,000 with the stolen vehicles. When we're reporting the stolen vehicle, the theft over 5,000, if you intercept a vehicle along the 401, that count, it's where it's intercepted, doesn't matter of the resident, right? So is that how it's recorded here?
That's correct.
Okay.
If because obviously that section of the 401, which is South Glengarry, everything within will be captured under South Glengarry.
Okay, great. And my next question was, is for your detachment, is there a focus for 2025 specifically to a certain area, whether it's property crime or violent crime, or do you guys have a certain focus for the 2025?
Absolutely. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the reinstatement of our domestic abuse coordinator is a big one. IPV is extremely significant without minimizing everything else. But in our society, domestic violence is every day. And then to have some officers that are dedicated to review those, and also to follow up on victims. I want to point out that one of the directions a conversation I had with my officer looking after that section is because when someone gets a victim of domestic violence, we normally provide a safety plan when they get sent, when they leave and they go back home. That second contact is always important to me. Could be a day later or a few days later, quick phone call. How's everything? Just want to make sure safety plans is good. That little that's really important to me, because I'm here to check up on you. Some people might say, hey, I'm okay, don't call me back. That's okay, we'll respect that. But that little peace of mind that, I want to make sure everything's okay, goes a long way, in my opinion, for victims. and the support. We work in partnership with VWAP, which is the Victim Witness Assistance, and Victim Services every day. And just to make sure that victims are looked after. This is really, really important, and it's one of the strategic priorities by the OPP. This is really important. The other question you asked me was, there was something else too. What?
No, that was it. It was the focus kind of for 2025. And you answered the other question about how it's captured with the thefts. It's as long as it's within South Glengarry, it's recorded.
Okay.
You already answered that, yeah.
The other point, as you can see, because of where we are by geography, you're going to see much more police presence along Highway 2, Can Road 2. We have a partnership with the RCMP, and then you'll see a greater presence of police vehicles, OPP and RCMP, for the foreseeable future. And also, it's good because we patrol our border along the river, but it's also the peace of mind from our own people, our own public. I encourage them to do ride, and it has a multi-purpose, and it should certainly show a greater presence and a sense of safety, and for our citizen. So hopefully this year that trend will stay just for that purpose. And I'm certainly hopeful that I am encouraging my members to do that every day.
Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, through Mayor McDonald. Thank you very much, Staff Sergeant Lamontagne, for being with us again and for bringing all this information. And thanks very much for providing the information ahead of time. It's very much appreciated, and it's always good to hear your perspective and see how things are going. I'd also like to just thank you for your that focus that you have on the intimate partner violence issue. And as you say, there's many other crimes that are also obviously you don't want to minimize those, but certainly there's there's municipalities across Ontario that have declared that there's a IPV emergency across Ontario, and certainly in the rural context, it's a lot more difficult for victims, I think it's fair to say, because you potentially are further apart from your neighbors who sometimes just knowing that there's people close by can help provide that extra level of awareness. And also if folks are in a difficult situation, that safety plan is so important because potentially for them to be able to remove themselves from that situation, there's distance and time, and it's great to hear that you've put that extra level of emphasis on that to help with that situation. I had a question that I did have, or actually it's two questions, is when it comes to like driving under the influence, that sort of thing, would those statistics fall under like a different type of report? And also, I know in the past you've spoken to how we compare to sort of SDG as a whole, and I'm not asking you to give us the numbers for SDG, but I'm wondering just like in terms of like high-level trending, are we in line with our neighbors, or are there things that we should be more aware of, or potential issues that we might be wanting to think about that we might be on our radar in the future? Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing it up. As a matter of fact, in the previous time that I came and present before you, all the stats I obtained myself. I made the math myself. I got those numbers myself, and that's why you had all those different entries and stats for the entire SDNG. And when I obtained that one, I realized that that's done by region, and I felt that it's not as detailed as, if I may say, it's not as detailed as I had in the past. And I think for the next, what I learned from this is for the next round of whenever I come next, I will do both. How's that? Because because I rely on this because this is what I was given by our stats person that looks after this in a region in Smith Falls. And then, but yeah, I totally appreciate your comment for the ride. But I can still provide that to you if you are interested. I can collect that info and I can forward it to you if you are interested to obtain for the ride and also for the overall. Because I like the overall. Because I'm yeah, you're right. To see where you are in relation to the other 5 counties. No, no, it's not. It's just a matter to take the time to collect the within our system. It's not that complicated to do at all. So, but I'll do it. That's fine.
I hope your Smith Falls stat person could just click a box for SDNG. Hopefully it's nice and simple for them so you don't have to do any of that extra work. I believe Deputy Mayor Lang had a comment too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and thank you, Sergeant, for the report. Just a question, and we know what County Council that budget was high, and there was some overage for 2023, and I don't know how much of this is rumor and so forth, but it was kind of told to us that some of that is because province-wide there's a lot of overtime being needed, and some of it's because officers are off with on sick leave or stress leave or whatever. I just wondered, are we in good shape in our area? Like, how are we doing in this area?
Absolutely. Right now, at full complement, we're about 70.75 from today. I think our frontline capacity, this is about where we are at this very moment. If you take in consideration officers that are not present at work versus we have, I believe, 58 is the full complement for frontline officers for the whole SDNG. And I believe we're at 41 right now. Frontline officers on patrol, boots on the ground. I think we are pretty good compared to other areas, other detachments, which are more in the 50, 55, 60%. I think 50, 70, 77 range, we're looking pretty good. But we can't control that. It comes, I mean, we plan today and tomorrow is a total different story. We have a major event. Officers got involved. May have been involved. Many officers, like I've seen, exposed to bodily fluid. One last week, I came in. There's 3 officers that, in one shot, like exposed to blood, and like there's an history of disease. You can only imagine now. Those 3 officers needs to go through a certain cocktail of medication. They can be at work. We're exposed to trauma. I mean, Sergeant Eric Mueller from Russell County was a good friend of mine, and but when the incident up there occurred, our officers from here also went on the day of. So you can only understand that going through those type of calls, extreme violence, is extremely demanding, mentally, physically. Emotionally, so so we have to care for our members. We have in place the OPP have put in place a healthy workplace, which is a group of psychologists, healthy people that are part of our health unit, but just to look after the mental health of our officers. And whenever there's a critical incident, they are deployed right away. They go through debriefs and they do those things just to try to minimize. Try to prevent aggravation and make sure our members are well looked after. Because if they aren't well, how can they best serve our public, our community? They can't. So this is why it's really, really important for my officers to be in good shape to look after our community. My job is to make sure they are okay and they are well taken care of. This is how we take care of our people, and this is my priority. And I love doing regular one-on-one with our members because I want to know the real story, the vibe, how's everything. You know, you need to have those communications, and the number one thing is trust and respect. And when you have that, I got your back, and I will take care of you if you need my help. And if you can do that, they can do the same for our communities. So anyway, that's kind of my my way of doing it, and it's been working really good. I've seen some officers being away for quite some time, coming back to work, and happy to be back to work, and that's what I want. So it's a it's not an easy task to do. And then what's the other? There was something else I want to talk about here. It's going to come back to me.
To feed off that one, sometimes we have the opportunity, I should say, to go out into the community, in particular with people 18 and younger. So the kids and the youth, perhaps, as you say, 41 of 58 people. I often try to say that, you know, if you want to come home, a municipality is a spot that you can work. How easy would it be for like a member of the community, say an 18-year-old that we're talking to at civics class, and say, here's an opportunity to come home, work from home? Like, does it take a while for you in OPP to, do you have to go somewhere else and then come back home, or can you go through the courses? Like, how long would it take for them to go home? It's just something I can mention to the group of kids at civics class or something.
Just to make sure that I understand correctly, with the OPP, like you mean our applicants with us?
Yes, correct. Sorry, I was a little roundabout. That.
Okay. The way the OPP shift and the whole recruiting process changed over the years, and obviously, like anybody, any other organization, we need to adapt based on the way things are, the way things change, and there's a lot of pressure also from different agencies because we're not the only one wanting officers to come in. RCMP, Cornwall Police, and they're all chasing the same thing, right? So, but we offer a good quality of life. But yeah, when young people are offered a job, often they're going to work extremely hard to give them the place where they want to go, because you know they're going to stay there. Otherwise, if you send somebody and 3 years down the road, I want to transfer back home, this is creating a bit of administrative nightmares. And when you can put the person where they want to be and work their career, it's a winner. So that's, yeah, absolutely. That's what the OPP has been working really. They shift their way of doing it. They're working really hard to get that done. Regarding that, we actually do a ride along. I've had like some college students reaching out to me, and then some college have agreement with us. They would come and do a run along. Some co-op students, and have a feeling of what's like it is like. And we recently hired the OPP revamped the whole cadet program across the OPP. And here in SDNG, we have 2 brand new cadets. Just started with us a couple weeks ago, and again, this is a way for the new cadets to see, is this something I want to do in my life? And it's a year contract, and that way they get to know, yeah, I want to do this, and they go through the process, which at that point, if they are a cadet, it's fast track because they already been through the backgrounds and all those checks that takes forever. Now it's all done. So that it's a lot quicker for them to get on. So the cadet program is really good for the younger, just came out of college or university, for that matter.
All right, thank you. No, that's good to hear. I remember when we were in high school, going back early 2000, it was, you know, a lot of police foundations would go, and it would take some time to come home. So it's good to see that we're working to keeping people where they want to be, because it's one of the greatest things is have jobs where people want to live, and a lot of people want to come back home to South Glengarry. So with that, no other questions. If you remembered your thought.
Yep, it's MCERT. I just want to quickly talk about the MCERT. I can't speak highly enough of the mental health crisis response team. The nurse, we have 1 nurse and 1 dedicated officer working full-time as the MCERT unit for us. This has a huge impact on our community. Mental health is such a big thing right now. 20 years ago, we would maybe get one mental health call a week, let's say. I'm just speaking in general. Now it's almost every day. So if you take into account that when we go to a mental health call, this normally takes 2 officers. And then if this turns into an apprehension, those 2 officers go to the hospital, the emergency. And, you know, it is going into the ER. Wait time could be, now it's a lot better, but it used to be, often I spend my entire shift at the hospital with a mental health, somebody that was apprehended. So you can actually socially, the whole social cost of having 2 officers, not only going to an already clogged hospital with patients, now you go in there, it's quite, it's quite the, you know, it's not really effective, I can say. That said, the MCERT, having a nurse, the one we have right now, worked in the hospital here for many years, worked at Third South for many years, has a direct contact with the psychologists, know the doctors, know the nurse in the ER. So you can appreciate how when our officers respond to a mental health call, when MCERT get involved, the MCERT is already on the phone with the psychologist. Well, that whole time spent in the ER, or even to minimize the apprehension because of follow-ups. They do follow-ups. Some patients that we dealt with every week for years, and we always end up in the hospital. Now, because they do their follow-up, we don't deal most of the time with those people anymore because the MCERT are doing the follow-ups, make sure they have the right resources in place. Our officers now can divert their focus on other serious calls. Well, I'm not saying this isn't serious, but you know, in face of the whole the geography of SDNG, it's quite challenging to sometimes for officers going to call, and if you tied up 2 officers in the hospital for 6-7 hours, well, the next 2 officers is probably in Finch, Avonmore. So if you got a call in Lancaster, what's happening if the 2 South Glengarry officers are at the hospital? See what I mean? So that's why the MCERT is a huge difference. Huge difference. I just want to point it out. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time, Staff Sergeant Lamontagne, and I guess we'll see you sometime probably plus or minus 3 months, hopefully, get a quarterly update. Thank you. So we'll move by action requests. Environment Committee, request for new member, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell, that Staff Report 2025-01 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry direct administration on behalf of Council to extend an invitation to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, RRCA, to attend and participate as a non-voting member of the South Glengarry Environment Committee for the remainder of the 2022-2026 Council term. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Happy New Year to everyone. I think the resolution pretty much says everything that is being requested by the Environment Committee. I thought I'd just add that we did have the RRCA, 2 members of their staff come and present to the committee in late August or early September, and it was a really well-received presentations, and the discussion was really, in my opinion, useful, and I think administratively that it makes a lot of sense to extend this invitation just based on how well everyone seemed to work together at that point and the reception that we received at the committee of the RSCA staff members. So thank you.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I have no problem the RRCA being invited to attend the meetings. I've attended the meeting myself as a guest. Personally, I'd rather not have them put into the terms of reference of the committee just based on it then binds them, and it could more or less make their presence essentially just a presence as opposed to a helpful, committed member. Also, there's a budget implication eventually. If we're telling the RRCA they have to come, that staff time is going to be paid, and we're going to be paying it through our budget and along with the other municipalities. I don't see why there's any reason to put them in the terms of reference. I'd rather just extend an invitation and say, we'd like it if you want to come at your own on your own volition, but I don't want to see it where it's mandatory for them or they feel compelled they have to go.
Counselor Jaworski?
Thank you, through Mayor McDonald. As I recall, the discussion went like, in fact, it was actually one of the folks from the RRCA who sort of asked if they could come regularly to the meeting. And the discussion within the committee and our understanding of the terms of reference was that if they were to come regularly, that it really needs to be reflected, that we can't sort of have like folks coming on a regular basis who are not, like if we want them to participate, like in terms of, providing insight or whatnot, like it's not just someone in the public watching, that it should be reflected in the terms of reference. And I mean, certainly I don't think anyone wants it to be mandatory, but I think the committee would be fine with if it was written in such a way that it's, as they're able type of wording. Certainly, I don't think it needs to be compulsory. I don't know if Jim McDonald, if your recollection is maybe different, or you have some other comments you want to add on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this may be a tag team with Ms. Compo and I. I'm not sure we're asking for the terms of reference to be updated, since there is a line in there in the terms of reference that says that we can have, I don't have it directly in front of me, but technical non-voting members. So it wouldn't be saying we would like the RCA to come every week, but similar to what we do with WSP. They are invited to attend, and they attend as a technical reference for us. So it's just making sure that council is aware that this invitation is being put out. And if council is not keen on having the RCA's input into your committee, then you would defeat this motion. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any thoughts around the table for that matter? All right, we'll put it to vote then. All those in favor? Carried. Moving to iCity Online Electronic Tax Bill Delivery and Customer Payment Portal, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie, that Staff Report 2025-2 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby authorizes the Treasurer to enter into agreement with Central Square for the provision of electronic tax bill delivery and online payment at a cost of $15,750 plus applicable HST to be funded from the Modernization Reserve. Ms. MacDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This report this evening is just we spoke about this at the budget. This is bringing forward the electronic tax bills. Given the budget's not yet approved, I just wanted to bring it again. And I also should have noted in the report prior to this going live, we will give council an opportunity to see how this works. Central Square, our provider, was eager to get this booked to get us in the queue for being able to go live in 2025. We don't anticipate this will be available until our next tax billing, but we just wanted to make sure we were in line to get started.
Are there any questions from around the table? Can we opt out of paper if we're citizens?
Yeah, this would be, you would register to choose to have it by email. We would still send reminder notices in paper, but this would be optional for our residents. It's not mandatory.
Excellent. All those in favor? Carried. Moving into bylaws, 2025 interim taxation bylaw. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang, that Staff Report 2025-3 be received and that Bylaw 2025-01, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy and provide for payment of interim taxation for the year 2025, be read a first, second, and third time passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 13th day of January 2025. Ms. MacDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is, as we do every year, our interim tax bylaw to allow us to collect interim taxes.
All right, housekeeping item, all those in favor? All right. Carried. Thank you for bringing in number 1 and 2 bylaws for those two. I always like to see that. I missed it one time. 2025 temporary borrowing bylaw, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski, that Staff Report 2025-04 be received and that Bylaw 2025-02 being a bylaw to provide for temporary borrowing to meet the current expenditures until taxes are collected to an upset limit of $9,646,069 in 2025 to be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 13th day of January 2025. Ms. MacDonald?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is another housekeeping bylaw. If should we ever need to borrow, we would be returning to council, but this is one that we need to have on the books for our financial institution.
Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Definitely in favor, but just for the public to know that we've never used it since 1998.
Quite correct. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Called the vote early. Councillor Jaworski, I didn't see your hands.
No, that's sorry. Thank you, through Mayor McDonald. One thing I wanted to double check was if my recollection is for some time it was quite a small amount. I mean, it's still large in numbers. It was like 3 million, I think, was the temporary borrowing, and then if I recall, like in 2023, it was like just under 9. And that was a change, I guess. So I just wanted to just double check in terms of now being sort of at that higher number. If that seems that, is there any advantage to having it at a lower number if we don't use it, or is administration, comfortable that that is the right amount to be at that sort of the $9 million mark?
You and through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe we've adopted this approach. It's similar to ones in our neighboring lower tiers. It's just a more defensible number. The number before was just sort of a traditional number. I know I sort of asked why we'd made the change as well, and this is the rationale I was given. It's just we can sort of choose why we would pick the number. I personally do not want to borrow $9 million on behalf of the township if I can avoid it, but.
Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I thought the number was adjusted based on the county portion of the taxes collected if ever they came looking for them in a hurry and we didn't have them, we could give them. I thought that was the rationale used whenever that was asked the last time. I think I'm having deja vu. We've had this conversation before, and I think the number was adjusted to a higher number to reflect, like, if we had to pay the counties at the drop of a hat for their portion of taxes.
Okay, I know that was, Mr. Jane would have been the one to do that, but I do know a few of the local municipalities, so is everybody comfortable? Like, that's good to have information? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement, Fire Protection Grant, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell, that Staff Report 2025-05 be received and that the bylaw 2025-03, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Solicitor General, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed this 13th day of January 2025, and furthermore that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign all applicable documents. Mr. Robertson.
Good evening, Council. On September 3rd, I approached Council to advise about a new grant opportunity that the province had was providing for fire services within the province. That it was announced to be a $30 million over 3-year grant that would, with a priority in 2024 for cancer prevention for firefighters in the province. With that, we applied for gear extractors, which are basically industrial washing machines, so that we can clean our personal protective equipment and reduce the risk of cancer for our staff. Those items were to be put into our 4 stations, be they Glen Walter, Martintown, Williamstown, and North Lancaster stations, which don't have those devices at this time. The week prior to Christmas, the grant was announced and we were successful. We received an amount of, here we are, $41,152. So that will go a long way to providing this equipment to our department. So we're very thankful to the province for this opportunity for that. The devices have been ordered. They will arrive within the next 3 to 4 weeks. They should arrive, and we're already prepping to make that installation. So the grant, the transfer of funds is through the standard transfer agreements, and thus the reason for this bylaw, and so that we can officially sign into this agreement with the province. So if you have any questions about the program, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions of the program? Okay. All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Now moving into key information reports, we added item A for verbal update on the Glen Walter water system. And another verbal update off agenda, but congratulations to Skip Dave Robertson for his win over the weekend at the Business Bonspiel. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was a request of council to kind of describe, not kind of, but to describe what occurred, what it took to fix the issue, and the kind of the steps of the boil water advisory that was issued for Glen Walter. So I'll just kind of walk everyone through what happened and how we fixed it, and then those steps. So, as everyone may know or may not know, we had an event or an incident in Glen Walter on Christmas Day. And it started at 3:30 in the morning when an alarm went out to our on-call operator. We have a pretty good response time. Our operators are able to be there within an hour. So an hour later, our operator was on site, so 4:30 in the morning on Christmas Day, to find the high lifts running at full capacity, which is not great, and our clear wells, which is our water storage in the plant, was also rapidly dropping. So at that point, he called the ORO, so our overall responsible operator, Mr. Dylan Sege, to say, we have a real problem. I need your help. Come on out. And they went out and they located the leak about 20 minutes later. How the water distribution system works is you have pipes and you have valves in various locations, and they tried to isolate around the break. So in that sense, what they want to do is they want to stop the water from going through the break to maintain pressure in the rest of the system. Unfortunately, by isolating the break, it was feeding the entire western part of the system. So the entire western part of the system was turned off because there was no redundancy, like there's no looping in that area. So at 7 a.m., we put out a voyant alert notice, and that's our online system for immediately notifying people with their method of choice. So it'll go to your phone, like your landline, a voice over text. It will go to your cell phone as a text message. You'll get an email, or it could just, your app will pop up an alert. So super, this is a plug for Voyant Alert. If you're on our water and wastewater systems in South Glengarry and you don't have it, it's an excellent way to keep notified on anything like this immediately. And we felt 7 a.m. was an appropriate time since people were starting to wake up, and they probably didn't want to be woken up on Christmas Day at 6 a.m. if they didn't have small children already. So at that point, we knew we were in trouble because this is a big problem for us with our small system. It was challenging to get contractors to come in. By challenging, I mean nobody would answer their phones because it was Christmas morning. However, our own road staff answered their phones. So to me, as a general manager of infrastructure services, to see water and roads working together on Christmas Day was incredible. So we had our three water folks out, and I think we had another 5 to 7 roads guys out. We did the dig ourselves. We were able to get an excavator in. I'd say it was like the pinnacle success story, unfortunately, on Christmas Day, of our teams working together. So we did keep the Eastern Ontario Health Unit and the Spills Action Centre notified throughout all of this, and there we go. We located the leak around 2 p.m. by digging down, and it was crazy. I was out for a little bit, and so we have our valve sticking up, and there's just water spraying out of the bottom, and then our poor valve, going up, the part from the pipe to the road starts to fall over, and it was quite the experience to be out there and just watching the knowledge of our water guys and our roads guys kind of coming together, since some of our roads crew have worked in fire services or been volunteer firefighters, so they knew some of the secret stores of pumps that we were able to borrow. Thank you. That perhaps our water operators didn't know of, just because they haven't had the opportunity to be involved. And we discovered that the top section of the valve had failed, and it was corroded bolts that were the cause of the failure. They were able to complete the repair at about 4:30, and we get the water system back up and running. However, The entire western part of the system was without pressure for about 12-ish hours, which means that the township put on a boil water advisory. So a drinking water advisory can be issued by two people, the owner of the system, so that's us as South Glengarry, and that could be council or myself, it could be the CAO, it could be the ORO or an operator, or the Eastern Ontario Health Unit could put on a drinking water advisory. However, no matter who puts the advisory on, the only agency who can lift it or person who can lift it is the medical officer of health. And they don't just lift it because we say pretty please. They lift it because we are able to satisfy their sampling requirements, which are 2 separate samples in a period of 24 to 48 hours that come back clear. So our water staff took many samples, but just the way, so we take the samples, we send them off to the lab gives us the results, we send the results to the health unit. And just the way things worked over the holidays, we were sampling, we were sending, and we weren't able to get 2 clear results within that 24 to 48 hour period. And that extended the amount of time that we had to keep the boil water advisory on, let's say. On January 2nd, we finally got our samples within that preferred time frame, and the boil water was lifted, and when it lifts, we receive official paperwork from the health unit, again, because they are the only ones who can lift it. And in this case, it was a proper boil water advisory. Occasionally, we'll put out a precautionary boil water advisory when we feel that, people may want to, but you don't have to boil your water. But in this one, because we had sustained pressure loss, as in no pressure at all on the western side of the system, it was a full-on boil water advisory. And unfortunately, we will likely have to redig in the spring, since we put in a temporary fix. We removed the valve and replaced a new piece of pipe to get people back up and running and get our own staff home. But we'll need to get back in there in the nicer months of the year. I'll also note that we had help from our neighbors. I think North Glengarry, I know that North Glengarry lent us their trench box, and I believe they lent us their replacement part that they had in stock, because when we got in there, we didn't have what we needed. So again, on Christmas Day, North Glengarry came out and helped us out, our roads guys, our water guys, and there was a few other people in the area who were affected, who actually worked for the city of Cornwall on their distribution lines, and they were coming out just to give our guys guidance, since this is not something that we do every day, but it is something that the larger centers seem to do. So even though we were very sorry to have to have low pressure or no water in Glen Walter on Christmas Day, operationally, I would say it was a huge success story, and our crews worked really hard to get everything back up and running for as many customers as we could on Christmas Day, and then again to get that boil water advisory lifted for the remainder of the system by January 2nd. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to receive them. Thank you.
All right. In the spirit of congratulating people instead of just saying staff, can you name some people so we can give them a round of applause? Because I didn't hear much about this from the citizenry, so I'd like to thank both the crew as well as people in Glen Walter, because everybody was fairly accepting that I didn't hear too much about it. So if you don't mind naming a few of those individuals.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, you're putting my memory to the test. Okay.
Well, that might not be fair then.
No, here we go. I can do this. From our water, and you're asking for my staff, correct? Okay. So from water, we had Dilay Sege, our Director of Water and Wastewater. We had Josh Villeneuve, and we had Brendan McMaster. From our roads department, we had, and I may miss someone, I really apologize, because people were coming and going as we were running to get equipment. So not everyone was there when I was there. We had James Levac, our roads and fleet supervisor. We had Bradley Gordon. We had Sean Anderson on the backhoe. Ken Goodfellow was out. I saw Mike Jarrett out. Dennis Luriviere was out. And I think there's one other gentleman. Did I say Trevor Levere yet? I believe Trevor Levere was there also.
Well, then from us to them, round of applause if we may. Oh. No, as bad as a day as it was, it is nice to see everybody come together like that. Any comments from council? Furthermore? Okay, well, thank you for your verbal update. Moving to the consent agenda, 11A, letter, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Municipal Accountability Act. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through Mayor McDonald. I didn't have, there's not a long thing I want to say about this. It's just, this is a a topic that, at the most recent AMO was probably one of the questions to the ministers that I think it's fair to say received the most sustained applause and interest on moving ahead with to have, proposed legislation to deal with council accountability and code of conduct behavior. So I just want to highlight that this is there is legislation now that's being proposed, and and the Ontario government is asking for commentary, and I expect that AMO will have the Association of Municipalities of Ontario will have a position or commentary, and I think it's just, again, because it will impact us, assuming this will move ahead, it will impact us. It can, could potentially change how our codes of conduct are written, and I think it is a very serious matter, and I think if we want to stay in the loop and ensure that if we do have comments that we feed that in, just because this is, something that's going to impact us and impact councils down the line. So I think, it's a serious matter. So just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that this is this and something to keep our, ears open for how it moves forward.
Thank you very much. And then moving out of consent. No, that's okay. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Nothing on items for consideration. Moving to boards and committee updates. We didn't have an SDG County Council meeting, but I believe our warden, Deputy Mayor Lang, would like to provide an update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was just a couple of things that we were involved with since our last meeting. I thought maybe you, council, might be interested in hearing. On December 17th, we hosted a funding announcement at the historic jail. And not that that was too big a deal, but after the announcement, it was kind of nice that the PA for Rural Affairs, Steve Bissonnet, and Minister Quinn as well, sat down with us and gave us half an hour, likely to 3/4 of an hour of time for kind of a round table / delegation, which was nice to see. Sometimes it's hard to get those minutes with ministers, so it was good. December 18th, the inaugural meeting for Prescott Russell, and just for everybody's aware, Yves Laviolette is the warden for Prescott Russell for the year. And then just last week, January 9th and 10th was the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus AGM. So we were in Kingston for 2 days, and Bonnie Clark is the new chair of the Wardens Caucus, and Steve Ferguson is the vice chair. But something that I found kind of interesting, well, maybe two things. AMO released a study, and if anybody gets a chance, maybe just take a quick peek at AMO's website. 80,000 homeless people in Ontario in 2024, and that's kind of a base, because it was basically they got a hold of all the agencies, and that's just people that were in contact with people so that they know about them, they wanting help, or they requested assistance for something, or some reason or other they were in contact. So there could be lots of people still couch surfing, this sort of thing that they don't know of. So it's getting to be a huge number. If you think about the whole city of Cornwall and half of the United Counties, if all those people disappeared, that's how many people are homeless somewhere in this province for last year, and they're worried it's going to go up. So it just kind of emphasized how serious it is. And then the other thing is, the next day we had ministers come and speak to us, a few of them, local ones quite a bit, but Minister Calandra as well. And I was kind of surprised at the tone in the room. Usually when the ministers come, they're talking about what they've done, what they'd like to do, and it's all kind of a little bit positive usually. They'll talk quite a bit about what their party's doing. This was very, very serious. The federal ministers that spoke and the provincial ministers were almost grim in some ways, just saying like, we are in a very, very serious time right now with the possibility of tariffs coming from the U.S. They all seemed, to me, it almost seemed like they were all worried, and they were being extremely grim in the way they were saying that, things may turn out, that, economically this may be worse for us than what COVID was. and definitely way worse than 2008, recession. So it was just something I thought maybe people might be unaware. And Minister Calandra himself, he had about 5 minutes, but there was no cameras in the room, and he took about a half an hour. And it was a very serious conversation. And he basically said, anybody coming to him, whether this is at Roma or whatever, and you're looking for help or funds, and you're not providing answers, basically. Like if you're looking for help for homelessness and you're not putting answers there of how you're going to be able to get rid of encampments or so on, or if you want money for infrastructure and you're not saying this is how many jobs it's going to provide or this is how many homes we're going to build, he said, don't bother coming. We're not listening. We have no interest if you're not putting some numbers there. And he was pretty blunt about it. So, and we know that they're distracted quite a bit because the provincial government's kind of half taking the lead here on what we're doing with the U.S. And the other thing he said that was quite blunt was that if we don't make it easier for people to get development in our townships, he will do it for us. And he basically said, either you make it easier for people or I'm going to do it for you, and it's not going to be pleasant if I have to do it for you. So something we need to be thinking about, and I talked to our CEO today about it a little bit, and we just need to be thinking about, is there ways that we can make things easier and kind of get things moving? So I just thought I'd share that. That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. Cornwall Regional Airport Commission. Any updates? Nope. No meetings? Okay, thank you. The RRCA did meet last Thursday. Going through the approval of the budget, I think that will add $10,000 to our budget presently. So whether we find that in ourselves by increasing our number or we find it within, or leave administration to leave our budget number there, it did increase $10,000 more than they expected. Except for reserve transfer, there's, other than that, some small items, and then the minister's direction, as Deputy Mayor said, they are looking to us to help with finding growth. The RRCA permitting fees have maintained stagnancy for 2022, 23, 24, and now 2025. So we keep updating them and having to revise them. I think the push to that would be trying to offer more locations for growth. And the RRCA's position on that would be, if we can't have people looking on the ground and trying to find gaps in sensitive areas, that's the argument we might take, is like, if we can increase our fees, we can find you more land. So they're doing it perhaps differently, but that was kind of nice tie into what Deputy Mayor Lang said. Glengarry County Archives Board probably did not meet from last meeting. Oh, Councillor
No.
McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we've not met, but there is one upcoming meeting end of the month, I believe.
Okay, you said 22nd or 27th?
Sorry, Mayor McDonald. The 22nd
22nd.
is what is the tentative date.
Okay. Glengarry Nor'Westers Loyalist Museum, I suppose they had something over the holidays?
Well, there was a meeting before the holidays that I missed, December 9th. However, there was a meeting today, which is why I was very much on time for council today. And a lot of discussion of planning for 2025. And I'd mentioned, the last time I gave an update, I did mention that they were looking for new board members and particularly a treasurer. And it was very nice to see that someone has accepted the challenge of being the new treasurer for the museum. So that's fantastic. And they do have some folks who have expressed interest in maybe joining the board. So perhaps the next time I give an update, I'll let you know that they have a few more board members. And one item was they have their tea talks twice a month through the summer, where oftentimes it's discussion presentations on points of local interest, but sometimes it's presentations just from interesting local people. So if you know someone who you think might be a good tea talk presenter, the museum is taking suggestions. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Agricultural Resource Committee,
No meeting.
Community Improvement Plan, no meeting. Connectivity Committee, no meeting. Environment Committee,
We haven't had a meeting since the last update that we gave at this table. No. And we had an item on the agenda, so.
thank you. Heritage Advisory Committee, no meeting. All right, we will be going into closed session. Moved by Councillor Bougee, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that council convene to closed session at 7:45 p.m. to discuss the following matter pursuant to Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is K negotiations, specifically instructions for ongoing negotiations. All those in favor? Carried. So coming out of closed session, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that council rise and reconvene at 8:02 PM into open session without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Closed session, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-04, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 13th day of January 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Before leaving, thank you for everyone for attending and listening online. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourned to the call of the chair at 8:03 PM. All those in favor? Carried. All the best to everybody's health, wealth, and happiness in 2025.